Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Allistair, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach, and my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, or welcome back to it. I'm Allistair McCall. On this episode of People with a Passion for What They Do, I have a very special guest. Matt Haycox is an entrepreneur, investor, mentor, funding guru, TV personality, poker player, tennis lover, podcast host, brand builder, and the list goes on and on. I, in fact, met Matt around about 2.5 years ago. It was through a mutual friend of ours, Xavier. And the very first time I remember meeting him, I just could feel the energy this guy had. His interpersonal skills were exceptional. He could walk into a room, light it up, start a conversation with any stranger. And, that just really stuck out for me, just the confidence that he had. And this is why one of the reasons why I wanted to get him onto the podcast. Matt is a go-getter. He's passionate about what he does. He's a guy that if you give him a lemon, he will make lemonade, and he'll do damn well at it too. As I mentioned in the introduction, he's a TV celebrity as well. He starred in the show Rich House, Poor House, which was aired on British television, I think last year, 2020. If you haven't checked it out, have a look on YouTube. Look under Rich House, Poor House, Matt Haycox, and you'll be able to find that episode. Really, really interesting. It's about somebody him, of course, who swaps places with a lower income family. They have to live off his budget, which is obviously considerably higher. They get to use his cars, his Ferraris, his Range Rovers. They get to live his life, and he, along with his good friend Daniel, gets to live their life. And that is on £67 and 13 pence. As he says, that 13 pence meant a lot in a week. Now, what I really loved about this interview is Matt is authentic. He's honest. He shares how he hit rock bottom. I obviously asked him how he came back from that, because, Matt is all about, it's not about the setback, it's about the comeback. I asked him how it is possible to become a more confident person. He talks about the importance of building relationships, overcoming challenges, and so much more. Enough for me. Let's get into this one. Matt, welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, and welcome to the series People with a Passion for What They Do.
Thank you for having me, mate. Good to be here. Good to see you as always.
Yeah. You're in Dubai right now, right?
Yeah, I'm here in Dubai. I've been here for the last 4 months. I can't believe how quickly time goes here. I've been saying to people every time they ask me how long I've been here, I know it's a complete cliche to say feels like I've been here for 4 or 5 weeks, not 4 or 5 months. But it honestly feels like I've been here for 4 days. I mean, it's just such a happy kind of consuming place.
Yeah, no, obviously you're from Leeds, which is obviously a very different climate to where you are right now. But, I mean, it's obviously a good sign. If time is flying, then that means you're obviously enjoying your time there.
Loving my time here. Not being anywhere near as productive as I would probably like, but that's all down to my late lack of discipline, which I'm sure is something we'll talk about, and you'll punish me for on the podcast. But no, I came out here back in January. Did actually have a good month of work, and keeping my head down and being able to be disciplined and motivated and on the straight and narrow. Then my daughter came out here, which was supposed to be for a week. She stayed for nearly 10 weeks.
Wow.
And I won't even make any excuses. It's the only time since she was a baby I've actually spent a clean 10 weeks with her, and I just kind of wanted to enjoy myself. So I've kept the wheels moving. I've done enough work to keep the lights on and keep the team in England happy. But it's only the last week or two I've started to get my head back into the game and refocus and start to plan for the rest of the year ahead.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that about balance in life as well. Is that it shouldn't be all about hard work, and I think that's something I'm realizing as well. Is just grafting, 14, 15 hours days. You have to put in the work to get somewhere, obviously, but you also need to know how to switch off and how to relax and enjoy. But, you're an incredibly successful business investor, funding guru, TV celebrity, all these things, Matt. But it hasn't come without a struggle. And I think it was around about 10 years ago where you hit rock bottom, you lost it all, but you've been able to turn that around. I'd like to ask you how you changed that around. You've also helped a lot of people as well. That looks like it's become one of your purposes, is helping others not make the same mistakes that you did.
So I went bankrupt in 2008, kind of September time 2008, and this was, I guess for anyone who doesn't know or too young to know whatever, I mean, this was the very onset of the financial crisis of 2008. And the previous 5 or 6 years, I've been building businesses, raising credit, creating all kinds of new businesses, new opportunities, making a load of money and living a great life as someone in my early 20s at that point. And the crunch came. The rug was pulled from under me. I say the rug was pulled from under me. I will always take 110% responsibility for everything that goes wrong. So I don't mean that in a way that other people let me down. I put myself in that position, so I do have to take the rap for it. But what I mean is, overnight the rug was pulled, and I went from running multiple 7-figure businesses, owning property all over the UK, all over the world, spending like a champion, and to waking up with literally nothing, no access to any capital, no income, and a reputation in tatters. My daughter was all about 2 years old, maybe just over 2 at that point. I was married still. And for me, it was as big a wake up call as you could possibly ask for. And I often get asked the question of how did you fix your mindset back then? How did you come back from that rock bottom? And I always say to people that I always feel I can't give you a really deep and detailed answer, other than the fact that I knew that wallowing in self-pity was never going to achieve anything for me, and I didn't know what the future was going to hold for me back then, but what I did know is that I had a wife and a daughter to provide for, a lifestyle for myself that I'd gotten used to and loved and wanted back in some way, shape or form, and that wasn't going to get fixed by sitting on the couch feeling sorry for myself and watching Jerry Springer all day. I had to get back out there and do something and move forward. And it wasn't, going to be an overnight miracle, and there was going to undoubtedly be, further setbacks along the way, and embarrassing conversations and situations, etc., etc. But I had a family I didn't want to let down. I had myself I didn't want to let down, and I just really had to get back on with it. And I know it's probably not the most exciting answer, but I think in most situations in life, it really isn't much more complicated than the cliche of every journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, or put your left foot in front of your right foot and keep doing it, and ultimately you'll look back and you'll be a bit further forward than you were. I didn't know where I was going to end up, but I knew I'd made mistakes which had kind of caused my downfall, but I also knew I had abilities and skill sets, and I was going to put those skill sets back to use, and I was going to bring myself out of it. And I think, for me, my advice to anyone who worries about things or feels out of control of their own destiny is it comes back to the skills that you've got for yourself, your ability to make money or to solve problems or to fix situations. And I think that's something that's been really recognisable to people over the last 12, 18 months during the Corona world as well. When people have been laid off from their job, furloughed, unable to access government support, etc. The people that I guess are the ones who are most exposed, are the ones that are reliant on other people more. And for me, I've always just very much felt that, my success, yes, it's a team effort, of course, but, my success or failure is always going to be very much dependent on my effort load. And, no time in my life I'd ever needed to put more effort in than being a broke 28-year-old with a wife and a daughter to pay for.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. Now, obviously, we've spent some time together last year in Spain and earlier this year in Dubai, and just being around you, you always radiate a great energy. You're good with people, and that's something that just fascinated me, and that's obviously why I wanted to get you onto the podcast, because interpersonal skills are a massive thing in business, and that's something when you're on your phone or you're with people, you're just so good with people. So I'm actually going to jump a few questions ahead here and ask you, what would your advice be to people who are maybe not great socially? They want what you have. I mean, when I watch you as well, I just admire how you're able to walk into a room, start speaking to anybody, and we know that those interpersonal skills are an important thing. So what would your advice be to someone that's maybe a bit shy or not socially as skilled as you are, for example?
Well, I think the important thing first is to realise why you're doing it, and what's your end game, what's your reason, and then suffering some of the earlier pain along the journey may be more palatable. And for me, I know that building great relationships are an absolutely fundamental part of my life success. And when I say success, I'm not just necessarily meaning in work related situations or financial related situations. All my successes, be it happiness, be it great experiences, be it making deals, come from having great relationships with people and and enjoying that time with people. So I know it's so important to do that. And I think if the people who are struggling to have the confidence or maybe not feeling uber sociable, etc., and think, well, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I think if you realise the outcome and the importance of it, it might give you a bit more impetus to put the effort in the beginning. But I'd also say, again, don't overthink it. I'll often liken it to when you're a kid or when you're trying to talk to a girl and everyone's like, well, what's the best chat up line or I just don't know what to go up to and say. And for me, it's very much the same in any networking or any personal situation. That opening line absolutely doesn't matter. I mean, aside from the cheesy jokes of chat-up lines and stuff, whether you go up to a girl and ask her a name or tell her a joke or introduce her, none of it matters, because as soon as she has responded and interacted with you, the ice is broken. It's as if if there's some kind of rapport there, it's as if you've known each other for half an hour anyway, and you can just get on with the chat. And it's the same in any social situation. The other people, they're probably as nervous as you are. We probably all want the same things. The girl's probably nervous to speak to the guy, so she's thankful he's come up to her and said something to her. You're in the networking situation. The person stood by the bar with a name tag on, not talking to anyone, is probably not talking to someone because they're as shy as you are. And as soon as you open your mouth and say hi, the weight's off your shoulders, the pressure's off, and you're both going to be as grateful and thankful as each other. And again, I'd just also say, just go into these things with an open mind. I mean, look, I've been networking and building relationships for 20 years, so I'm a lot more targeted about it now. If I'm doing it for work purposes, obviously in just general social purposes, I love to talk to anyone. But if I'm doing it for work purposes, I've targeted my let's say networking prey beforehand, so I know who I'm talking to and I know why I'm doing it. But other than that, I just think just go with it. Just don't feel you've got to get something from every situation you're particularly there and then. Some relationships take months, if not years to develop. Some may not bear fruit, for a very, very, very long time. But I just, I love the fact that I've got a fantastic Rolodex of people who I can go to for fun as much as I can for work, and that's that's why for me it's such an enjoyable activity.
Mm. Now you're obviously a TV celebrity as well. You're on the TV show Rich House Poor House, which
You,
which
what an introduction! I'll be dining out off this for weeks.
I really enjoyed it. I must admit, obviously with your good friend Daniel as well. But you know, first of all, why did you go on to that show, and what did you take away from it?
You know what? Just before I answer that as well, I'll tell you a completely true story. I actually watched the full episode last night.
Well, so did I. So did I. I watched it on YouTube. So. Yeah.
Oh, really? I've been here with a friend in Dubai, and me and her were talking about it, and I said, I'm going to have to show you this, and it was kind of fun to rewatch and relive that experience. But I mean, I think we filmed that maybe 15 months ago, 16 months ago.
Is it the
now.
first time? The first time you watched the whole show last night?
No, I watched it when I think it aired in April of last year. So okay. I had watched it before, but you know, it's you still forget bits, or it brings back memories anyway. And I'd originally been asked to do the show in I think the September before the December that I filmed it, and the TV production company approached me and asked me to do it with my daughter actually, which I was super excited about. I thought it'd be great fun to do it with her. It'd be a good eye opener and experience for her as well. But she's particularly then she's a bit shyer than she is now, and she didn't really want to be on TV. Was worried about what her friends were going to say, etc. So she didn't want to do it with me. So I was. Because I wasn't, I guess I didn't have a family. It would have been a kind of a hard show for me to shoot, and I was seeing a girl at the time, not very seriously, but the production company said that I could film it with her. And I was about to say yes, and I thought, you know what, we don't really know each other that well. I don't really want to be stuck in a house with you for 7 days, and I don't really want an indelible television memory of you either. So I was about to pull out, and they said, no, we really want you to do the show. You know, we think you'll be good fun on there. Have you got a mate or anyone you can do it with? So I thought, who can I ask on such short notice to do such a ultimately large thing? So I asked my mate Daniel, who lives in the same building as me. We've been friends for forever, and he said he was going to do it. He said he was up for doing it, and it was. So I guess why did I do it? For me, I try not to overthink anything, but I will say yes to pretty much every opportunity. Obviously, unless there's a compelling reason why I shouldn't, or unless there's a real time pressure. But I'll always try and say yes to most things, because you just never know where it's going to go. And look, from a television perspective, I always very much take the view that any kind of exposure is going to help me grow my brand, build my audience, and one thing will lead to the next. So I can't pretend that this was purely altruistic reasons. Obviously experiencing how other people live. I obviously wanted to get exposure for me and my business, but then I wanted to have story. I wanted to experience it. I wanted to see how people materially less fortunate than me live. See if it was things that I could help or add value with, and then and just have great stories to tell. And most of these experiences do give me great stories to tell. I filmed for 7 days. Living in a house where I was given £67.13. I'll always remember that 13 pence, because when you've only got 67 quid, every penny counts. And me and Daniel had to live on £67.13 for the week. And again, to put that into context, Anna, the lady I swapped with, she pays everything out of that money, down to the parking. She has a job, and she has to go to this job, I think 4 days a week, and she has to pay her own parking to park at the place that she works. Now, it's only £2, but £2 4 days a week, £8 when you've only got £67 is an absolutely astronomical amount of money, and it's just something that we can talk about all day long, but until you live it and breathe it, you just can't get your head around it. So for me, it was fantastic to understand all this, and to meet these people, and like I say, to give me a different perspective. And with most things, I always make some good long-term relationships. And I ended up helping Anna and a daughter and son out. We were a bit behind schedule because of Corona, but been helping them set up a dog walking business, which was going to be her passion. She's Anna's someone. She's been to my birthday party since then. We'll speak on the WhatsApp every few months, and I guess love collecting people and stories and memories that I can look back on.
Yeah. What was the hardest part for you that week? I mean, obviously, just for our listeners out there, it's, you swapped the lives with another family. They lived in your house. You had to live in theirs. You were only given £67 and 13 pence per week. They could spend what your budget was, I think, 1,400 per week. But what was the hardest thing for you?
What was the hardest? I think for me it was hard. The simpler things are what you actually miss more. The freedom. I mean, look, first of all, I probably didn't find it too tough because I knew that there was a finite time scale on it. I knew that it was something I had to do for that week, and then after the week I'd be back to normality. So I didn't find it stressful or anxious, which obviously I think you 100% would do if you lived that life and you've got that week in, week out. So for me it was more of a challenge and an activity that so I don't want to trivialise it for the people who have to live and breathe this every day. But I think for me the toughest bit was just the freedom of so many things that we take for granted. Like I'm shivering in bed at night, but I can't turn the heating on because we can only have it on for 4 or 5 hours a day because that 6th or 7th hour could be £1 or £2. 3-4% of a budget. When you go to the supermarket, I can't buy a nice fresh vegetable or piece of fruit or a decent piece of fish. I think when you go into these situations, people always go, "Oh, well, you're going to miss your Ferrari, you're going to miss your collection of wine, and all this, that, and the other." I think it's almost just like superficial waffle, right? I never thought about my car or my house or anything like that once ever. But what I did think about was, my duvet's so much thicker, or my vegetables are so much fresher. I couldn't eat healthy. I mean, you know me. I'm not the healthiest eater at the best of times, but even if it's not healthy, I do like it to be quality. And they're the things that I really noticed and really missed.
Now, obviously, you're super passionate about what you do, but there's a quote that goes, and I'm sure you've heard it: "Find your passion, and you'll never work another day in your life." Would you tend to agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would do. I mean, 100%. I absolutely love what I do, but I think it maybe sometimes is a bit more of a what's the word? I guess it's probably more of a cliched quote that tries to encompass everything but doesn't. I mean, look, I love what I do, and I don't feel like I work. But that doesn't mean that every day is full of roses. I think being able to enjoy what you do in life, in every aspect of life, not just work, is so important. But I also think it's something that is potentially a lot easier than people think. I really feel that we do too many things in life that we don't want to without a good reason for doing that. I mean, how many people do we know who are in relationships with men or women that they don't want to be with? That hang out with friends, or I say friends, and go to venues and do things that they don't want to do, and I never really understand why, or have a job that you don't want to have. Now, listen, there's always circumstances there. Listen, if somebody specifically needs to earn some money, then they'll do whatever it takes to earn that money. But at most categories of your job and in life, you have options. Whether if that's that you're, I don't know, on, let's say, 15, 20 grand a year, doing more blue collar tasks. Well, there's probably, if you don't like the environment that you're in, there is probably a similar place down the road with a nicer boss or better colleagues or whatever, that you could look to move to. If you're a 200 grand a year lawyer in a law firm where you're miserable, there's probably another law firm down the road that you can move to. And when you're with a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you live with, and you don't, you dread going home to them, you want to avoid them all the time. yeah, I never understand why. Why do we do this? Because, and again, in relationships, people say, well, they stay together because of the money. Again, I don't really understand that, because there's two kinds of money. You've either got not much money or you've got a lot of money. Now, if you've got not much money, then why are you arguing? Because just split the not much money that you haven't got anyway and move on. And if you've got loads of money, then I'm sure you should be happy to pay some of it to get rid of the other person to have a better life. So I know we've probably gone off on a slight tangent from the from the original question there, but yeah, finding your passion to never work a day in your life is super important. But I don't think it has to just be with work. I just think we've got so many more opportunities to do what we want and enjoy ourselves than we probably think we have. And I think that's something that people should really think about a lot harder and look at the aspects of their life that aren't working for them, ask themselves why. And I think making a change is probably a lot easier than you think.
Perfect, because that leads us to my next question is on purpose. Do you have a defined purpose, Matt? Your why?
I mean, I wouldn't say I have a crystal clear, 10 words that I can hang on the wall and say that's always me. But for me, my purpose is about legacy. It's about freedom. It's about building things, and to a degree, setting an example for my daughter, and I guess the people that matter to me. So I guess when I wake up in the morning, I want to know that I've achieved something that day. That I've built a business, or created a building, or taken an idea from idea to execution. And ultimately all of that almost like ties in with what we were talking about with the TV thing. That it's that it's stories to tell, it's legacy, it's opportunities to meet people. And I guess so. I guess ultimately my purpose is probably is to be happy.
Yeah, no, I like that. Matt, what does a typical day look like for you? I'm sure that's a pretty tough question to answer, because I'm sure you do so many things. But what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I always say that I probably think whilst other people might not think it to look at me, because I always look like I'm gallivanting around having fun, I do genuinely think that I know that I work 365 days of the year. Maybe not 15-hour days every day, but I'm always working on something. And I guess that goes back to your thing about having your passion, and it doesn't feel like work, because I love to sit on my laptop on Christmas Day. Bear in mind, Christmas Day is also my birthday, and I love being sat there answering emails and writing documents and things, because I know it's about the one day of the year when other people won't be bothering me. But it doesn't feel like work, because I'm doing the things that I want to do. But I'm always, every day, I'm thinking about meeting new people. Dealing with my inbox, speaking to my team, and moving my businesses forward. Now, outside of work, I try and get some fresh air and exercise in. I mean, again, obviously, as you know, I'm hardly Mr. Health and Fitness, but it's very much something that over the last few years I've really started to appreciate how much better I feel after I've done some exercise. And I try and get the discipline now to, even if it's just walking, get an hour's walking, an hour or two a day's walking, which again, that might tie in with work, and I like to stick my headphones on, make some calls, listen to a podcast, listen to an audio book. And then, again, I'm trying to read a lot more than I used to. So, I mean, really, for me, my days are working, bit of exercise, reading or something I enjoy, and as long as we're in the same vicinity, spending as much time with my daughter Harley as I can as well.
Perfect. So it does sound like you do have a good balance. As you mentioned there, time for work, time for obviously your family, time for exercise, etc. So I mean, obviously, we spend a few days together as well, and yeah, you're on your laptop at 10 p.m. at night, you're on it at 7 in the morning, but you're also out running, you're doing all these things. So it looks like you've got a good balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think look, balance is, there's no right answer to balance. I think balance is, is what is right for you. And I never look at it as trying to balance. I do the things I want to do when I want to do them. It's like, like you say, you and I spent time together, where I might be on the laptop at 7 in the morning or 10 at night. But I guess I'm doing what I want to do at that point. If you and I were saying, oh, let's go out for some dinner, it's 9 o'clock, let's go out for some dinner. I don't know. We'd never be going out for dinner because it was the right answer of the thing to do. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. We must go out for dinner. You must put your laptop down. We'll be going out for dinner because I want. That's what I want to do at that point. Now, I feel at that point in time, the social life is more important than the work. But if I had some work that I had to be doing, then I'd be saying, sorry, Allistair, let's do breakfast tomorrow because I can't do dinner tonight. So I think you've just got to do what feels right for you. I think again, in too many situations, other people prescribe to you, what is the right answer, what time you should be getting up in the morning, how much time you should spend with your kids or whatever. I think ultimately you've just got to do what feels right and what makes you happy, because otherwise, if you try and shoehorn too much of one thing in, you're just going to resent that and miss out on the other bits.
Man, what would you say are 2 or 3 traits of high performers? And obviously, this podcast is listened by coaches, athletes, entrepreneurs, anybody who wants to be more champion-minded. But what are 2 or 3 traits of a successful person, a high-performing person?
Discipline. 100% discipline. Some of these words are probably interchangeable, but I'd be saying discipline, consistency, and huge levels of effort. And I think those levels of effort are the super performers, obviously all day, every day, but particularly in the earlier parts of your career or of the activities, etc., that you're doing. I mean, again, and obviously a lot of your audience is probably sports related. For me, the parallels between business and sports, are very, very clear. And a lot of the time, I'll have guys in my team asking me for tricks on how to negotiate, tricks on how to sell better, etc. And ultimately, my answer always goes down to the fact that it's about the effort that you put in on the front end, not what you're doing at the back end. And I guess if we're talking tennis or something, I'm sure if a cross court volley's hit in that direction, what's the best way to hit it back? Well, there's probably an answer, but the reality is, if you're asking at that point, you're too late in the game. It's how could you have dealt with it much earlier on to not be in that position in the first place? And I always say to my guys, you can't. I've not got a trick for you that will help you close every deal. I've not got a trick for you that will help you negotiate with every single person, because everything's different. But if you're worrying about it now, that's because you haven't put the effort in at the front end, and you don't have enough prospects in your pipeline. You don't have enough people that you're negotiating with. I think, for me, the real high performers in any field, business, sport, whatever, they put uber amounts of effort in, from early in the game to middle of the game. So it makes it, for us lay people, it makes it look easy for them at the back end. That he's just kicked that that football so easily. Or, he's just closed that multi-million-pound deal. But you're seeing the 0.01% at the back end, and it's all the effort that's gone in at the front. I think as well, honesty when things go wrong. Again, top performers, know that they get things wrong and they want to improve on them. And again, unless you're honest with yourself about what you've got wrong, you're never going to be able to take the step back to try and learn and have that quest for learning.
What would be some advice you'd give? Say this generation, or let's just say students that are maybe graduating from college now, what would be some of the best advice you'd give them going into the business world, going into the bigger world?
Well, I think, particularly for people going to the business world, I'd say that, whatever point whatever point of school we're talking now, whether this is leaving at 18 after high school, leaving at 21, 22 after college, I'd say you've got to realise that you know nothing, and that everything you've learned up to this point is probably going to teach you not one thing that you need to know going forward. The skills of business and the skills of life. It's a cliche, but unfortunately they aren't taught in school. They aren't taught in universities, and most of the let's say the very public success stories, the very high profile entrepreneurs, of today, of most days, and never normally the ones that have got this fantastic formal education and followed a particular process. It's a cliche of the school of hard knocks, but you really start learning when you've left these educational institutions. So my advice would be to learn those skills as early as you can in the game. I'm not saying that what you learn at school is useless or redundant, but there's so many other skills that are much more, I guess, principles that are foundational to your success. And for me, anyone who wants to have success in business, needs to have, the skills of sales, the skills of marketing, the skills of basic accountancy. And if you're a 15, 16, 17-year-old, listening to this, I'm not saying don't go to uni, etc. If you're going to be doing all that, try and learn these skills alongside. And again, one of the things we talked about earlier on in this conversation was relationships. And I will always put down my biggest successes to having come out of great relationships that I've got with people. And I think again, put as much effort as you can into networking, to building your relationships and to having those people that you can partner with, that you can do deals with. And the earlier you start doing any of this, the better.
Yeah. Matt, if you could go back to let's say when you were 20, 21 years old, what would you have changed? What would you do differently?
I would two things. I would have found some formal mentors much earlier in the game. Again, mentorship is something I talk about quite heavily nowadays, and I'll have formal mentors, I'll have informal mentors, and again, if I look back to my early 20s, mid 20s, etc., did I have mentors? Well, I mean, I guess technically there was probably people I might, if I needed some advice or someone I might call, but I never, let's say, did it formally. I think for me it's a very British thing that we don't like to ask others for help. That we want to feel that we're self-made and etc. And I think nowhere in life is it more daft than in business. That if you're a sports person, for example, it's very clear. If you're a Federer or an Nadal, or if you're a county tennis player, or if you're a guy who's picked up a racket for the first time, these are all completely different stages of the game. But but all the top guys, that they'll have their coaches because they've got so much to still learn continually, and they're doing that knowing that at the top of the game. You convert this to business, and people there's this kind of feeling that, oh, well, I'm in business, therefore there's no other stages of the business game, and I don't need to be taught everything because I own my own business. Well, there's a complete difference between owning your own business that you're 3 days into and owning a business that you're 40 years into, having had successes, failures, made the mistakes along the way. And people don't have in business, the mentors, the coaches, the assistants they can, because let's put it down to ego or whatever. So I would definitely have done that, much earlier on in the game. And also, nowadays I've got a real quest for knowledge. I love, I'll absorb myself in YouTube, in books, in anything I can to learn the skills that I either want or need, or to learn about the things that I know are going to be interesting for me and probably beneficial. So I think, taking advice and having people to look up to and learning more would have definitely given me a much smoother path along the way. And I'm probably not, in reality, hampered my ego in any way.
Yeah, as you mentioned that, we can have mentors. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody in person. These days with social media, we can follow people in our industry. We can follow inspirational people and so on and so forth. I mean, I have many mentors that I haven't met before, and learn from, like, by following them. And you in a way, you're a mentor as well to me as well. I just watch how you do things, how you are with people, and learn. Like we said, we can learn from everybody. It doesn't matter who they are, what sector they're in. But talking about podcasts and books, what book are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading a book right now. I think it's just called Reed Hastings. Which is basically about the guy is the founder and CEO of Netflix, a guy called Reed Hastings. And I tell you, it's one of the most. I think it's going to be one of the most transformative books I've ever read. My biggest thing I can never get right in business is recruitment and culture. And my whole career, and many of all the businesses I'm still involved with, we suffer day in, day out from bad recruitment, from culture problems, etc. And it's something that I've just never felt that I've been able to get right. And there was one or two chapters in this book specifically about Reed's views on culture, methods of hiring, methods of firing, etc. And won't bore you with the details on this, but all I can say is it's completely opened my eyes, and I know there's a long road ahead of me of how to implement it. But I think 18, 24 months down the line, I could have a much more different story to tell. But I guess for me the takeaway from that is not specifically about the recruitment or the culture, but that there's just so much to learn from other people, people who have trodden the steps ahead of you, and all I can say to anyone is read as much as you can, listen to as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can. And it doesn't have to be for everything. I think one of the mistakes people might make is they think they have to like everything about somebody, or they have to share everybody's views in total. That's complete rubbish. Take the best bits, from the people you can. You were saying that certain bits from me that you watch from me, or you consider me a mentor from, but that's very certain bits. You would never look at me for fitness advice or nutritional advice or those kind of things. But to then say, well, Matt eats rubbish and he never goes to the gym, so I'm not going to listen to him about these bits, would be foolish. And you can apply that to so many things. So I think there's just so much to be taken, and even if you only take one page of a book, or 1 minute of a podcast, that 1 minute can be so transformational in whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's something I talk about as well. If you go to a conference or a workshop or something online, or even you read a book, and if there's only one thing you can take away from there that moves you forward in your career or moves you forward in your life, it's been worth it. It's been worth reading those 350 pages to get that one line or that one thing that moves you forward.
100%.
Yeah. I want to be respectful of your time, obviously, Matt. So just one or two more questions. If you could have lunch with one person, they can be dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I always struggle on these kind of questions, because I've always got either so many different people I want to do it with, or I can never hone it down. But again, I'd want to sit with someone that I could learn from, but also have fun with. And a guy that actually came to mind he's dead now, unfortunately. Is a once famous comedian that passed away, a guy called Greg Giraldo, who was I don't know if you know him, but he was a big roaster on the Comedy Central roasts. Now, I loved his comedy because it was always very clever comedy, and his backstory was that he was actually a successful practicing American lawyer, and he did comedy, and ultimately, kicked the law out and carried on with the comedy. But when you hear his jokes and how he puts everything together, you can really see the underlying intelligence of that guy. And obviously I find his humour funny, so I think to be able to listen to the stories of someone like that and to pick their brains would be fantastic.
Interesting. Is there a quote or a line that you live by? Is there something that springs to mind?
Um, yeah, I wouldn't say there's a formal quote, but I guess like my kind of personal quotes are that I'm always smiling, or it's easier to smile than it is to frown. And I get going back to some of the things that we talked about earlier on today about doing what you want to do or not doing the things that you don't want to do. I think it's so much easier than people think, and to wake up with a smile in the morning is as easy as it is to wake up grumpy in the morning, and how often do you ever really need to be grumpy? I just think people put themselves in a bad mood. People have that negative mindset from too early in the day, and for me, even when things are going bad, it's very rare that I've not got a smile on my face or I'm grumpy about something. Like I said, that doesn't mean I don't have plenty of horrific situations that I wouldn't want them to happen, but I try and deal with them as positively as I can. Because ultimately there's very, very few things in life that are terminal or catastrophic, and I just try and take the view that everything's a learning experience, and even if it goes really bad, well, I've got a funny but expensive story to tell my mates over dinner.
Yeah, well, obviously, as we mentioned, we spent time with you, and I hadn't seen you in a bad mood. You always bring a great energy to the room. So, final question: how do you define success?
So I always say, if someone's successful, they're only successful if they've achieved what it is that they set out to achieve. And again, the stereotypical view is, oh well, he's successful because he's got money, or he isn't successful because he hasn't got money, etc. And for me, there's so much more behind it. And the real definition of success is, have you hit the metrics that you wanted to achieve. And listen. Obviously, financial metrics are a big part of what I do. I love building businesses and want to make money. So, for me, I do personally define a lot of my success financially. But also, for me, it's about saying, can I put my head down at night and sleep easy? Have I lived my life in a way that I would be embarrassed or ashamed if my daughter knew everything I'd done? And listen, I'm the first to say that I do and say a lot of things that most other people probably wouldn't. But I also know that I don't do anything with malice. And I mean everything in the best spirit. So I can always say to myself, you know what? If Harley knew the full story of what I'd done, would she hate me as a dad? And as long as I can say no to that, and I can make a few quid along the way and have a good laugh, then that's my definition of my personal success.
I like it. It's just getting back to how we started. You said just keep things simple, don't overthink it. It just sounds like your success is simple. So, Matt, this has been a great pleasure having you onto the podcast. Obviously, it's been a while that I've wanted to get you on. Quick one, you have the Matt Haycox Foundation?
Yes, I do. It's been about 4 years now. I mean, that was a charity that was formed off the back of a chance meeting with a young boy who was 10 or 11 years old at the time, suffering from cerebral palsy, trying to raise money for a time-sensitive operation. I met him at a football match. I mean, there's hours and hours of stories I could tell about it, but long story short, met Alfie. Helped him and his family raise the money he needed to get the operation done. 4 years on now, he had a very successful outcome from it. But while I was doing that, I felt that I really enjoyed being a part of the process. Not just kind of raising and providing the money, but providing the support to the family, because again, there's so much support away from the financial support that people in these situations need. Loved doing it, and kind of created the foundation with a view that we would raise money from my network, effectively put my network and black book to good use, to extract some cash from them to be to be spent on charitable situations. And the charitable situations we've spent it on ultimately are ones that we can touch and feel and get emotionally attached to. And I'll always be the first to say that you can't say that someone's charitable causes are right or wrong. What they're into is what they're into, and there's no right or wrong answers. But for me, and because I'm effectively, tapping up my friends to put money into these things, I want things that we can touch and feel and get emotionally attached to. So, our strapline is, we don't make a difference, we make the difference. So really, we want complete ownership of something, even if whether it's £1,000 problem or £100,000 problem. We want to do it all, and we want to build a relationship with that person and their family who's struggling. And I'll always say that my definition of success for the foundation is if I can be sat there in 10 years' time and look back and have my collection of 10 or 15 people. It doesn't have to be 1,500. It's literally 10 or 15 people whose lives we've changed and maintained a friendship with along the way. Then that's all we can ask. And as time goes on, we'll probably raise more and more money and hopefully make it bigger and bigger. But in the meantime, I just want to put a smile on at least one person's face every year.
Oh, brilliant. And that's obviously very linked to your purpose as well. So, Matt, what's the best place for our listeners out there to get in touch with you? Obviously, it doesn't have to be a phone number, but social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the Matt Haycox on pretty much everything. That's TheMattHaycox, the Matt Haycox. You'll get me everywhere: Insta, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and my personal website too. I reply to as many messages as I possibly can. If I don't always get to reply to them personally, I'll always make a video or try and get some kind of advice or commentary out there for you. So please do send me a message, and I always like meeting new people.
Awesome stuff. And you obviously have the Matt Haycox podcast as well.
I do, yeah. I've got a podcast. We do it audio on iTunes, Spotify, all those usual places, and the video version on YouTube. Very much like Allistair, speak to some fantastic, and differing inspirational characters. And we're going to have to get you. We're going to have to get you on, Allistair. Well, I'll reciprocate and repay the favour. I'll love to put you under pressure and pick your brains.
Awesome stuff. Matt, I'll let you get on with it. Thanks so much for giving us your time and sharing your journey with us and knowledge as well.
Anytime, buddy. Pleasure.
So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one with Matt. A massive thanks to him for coming on to the show. Remember to check out his podcast, The Matt Haycox Show, and of course connect with him on social media on Twitter, The Matt Haycox, as well on Instagram. As always, this podcast is available on iTunes, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, and via my website, allistairmccord.com. Also, a massive thanks to every single one of you who've left a rating or review on iTunes or who have shared an episode from the Champion Minded podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to connect with me on social media. I'm on Twitter at Allistair McCall, on Instagram, Be Champion Minded, and on Facebook, Allistair McCall page. Until next time, remember you were made for greatness. Now go do the work. Stay champion-minded.